All right, so like I said, we're going to start out with a couple pre-shot fundamentals just to make sure your base and your setup is correct. So we're going to talk about the grip first, and everybody's right-handed, yeah? Perfect. So if you lay the club almost like it's at address, and then grip it with your left hand, your thumb should be pointing down the shaft, and what that's going to do is it's going to give you a little indicator right here of your, kind of makes a little seam in between your thumb and your forefinger. And when that's laying at address, it needs to be pointed to the center or to the right center of your chest. So you guys look all look pretty good at that. And then you guys do interlock, overlap, 10 finger.
10 finger.
10 finger. Steve, what about you?
Interlock.
Interlock. Jack? Overlap.
Interlock.
Interlock. Okay. So for the purpose of this, we'll talk about all three of those. And what you want to do for the interlock, obviously you're going to slide your pinky in between your first finger and lay your thumb over. Joe, for you, it's going to be you just butt it up against there like that.
Yeah, just butt it up against.
Okay. And then Jack, you go one finger deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, just one. Okay. So for all those same grips, regardless of the ones that you use, we're still going to have an indicator on our right hand of that seam again, and that seam's going to be created just like that again, and it should be pointed to the right, to the center or to the right center of your chest. So take a look at all of them. Looks pretty good. All right. So that's just the basic grip setup. And then we could talk a little bit about grip tension. What do you guys think about how hard you should grip it? Soft, hard?
I'm usually pretty soft.
You're usually pretty soft. Jack, you're soft as well. What about you, Steve?
I try to get like as firm as I can.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. And see, that's one thing that might help you out is just loosening your grip, because when you have tension in your hands, it leads to tension in your arms and in your shoulders and in your back, and you're not able to move as fluidly when you do grip it very hard. So we'll take a look at that when we do full shots. What about you, Chris?
Pretty loose.
Pretty loose? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So that's just the basics of the grip setup. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask any questions anytime. Yeah.
You have your forefinger and your thumb together when you put it on. That would seem to have a gap. Is that wrong, or should it be
No, I
tighter together?
I think they should be together, but again, it's just based on comfort with the overlap. Raise your club like this, Jack. Let me see it. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Good question. All right, so now we'll talk about alignment a little bit, and I'm going to use these sticks here to show you something that I think is fairly important that we as golfers need to understand. So if you guys want to just come right here behind me and go ahead and look down the line and say this is where we play our ball from, right? But we don't play golf like this, correct? You don't stand on the ball. You have to stand to the side of the ball. So what I want you to do individually is look behind the ball, set up like you're going to hit the ball, and then we'll talk about what happens in between those. So Joe, you want to go first?
Okay.
So look behind you. Would you say that the pole on the ground, the pole that's sticking in the ground, and that flag is pretty aligned?
Yeah.
Okay, now what I want you to do is pay attention to the top of this right here.
Okay.
When you set up to the ball, and see what happens to it.
Okay.
Now where's the top of that pole?
It's to the right.
It's to the right, right? Because we don't stand on top of the ball. And so when you miss the ball, where does it tend to go the majority of the time as a right-handed golfer?
Right.
Right, exactly. So we have to be compensating for that because we don't stand right on the ball.
Yeah.
So we have to feel like we are aimed left
Okay.
in order for it to go straight because we don't stand directly on the golf ball. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Jack, you want to give it a shot? And same thing for you. You see how it's off to the right of the flag now? And when you miss, Jack, where does the ball tend to go? Do you pull it or do you push it?
I pull it.
You do pull it. Okay, awesome. But still, even for the fact that you do pull the ball, we need to understand that you need to be set up square and corrected just starting out. Steve, you want to do it? And if there's one thing that you guys take away from this today, this would probably be the most important piece of information that I can give you, just because if you don't have a stable setup from the start, you're kind of fighting a losing battle, and this is something that can easily be fixed. with a little bit of time and just consideration of what's going on. I had never seen this before until a couple years ago, and it made a big difference for myself and how I set up, and understanding that I may need to be a little bit more left or feel like I'm aimed left in order to hit the ball straighter. So Chris, finally, you want to do that as well?
Yeah.
And again, you see how the top of this moves to the right?
Yeah.
And Chris, when you miss hit shots as far as directionally, where do they go?
Pull it.
You pull it as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, same thing with Jack. Even if you do pull it, regardless of whether you push or pull it, a solid understanding of where we're at to start out is important. Awesome. So that's a bit about alignment. Is there any? Do you guys have any questions? You guys want to move back over here?
Sure.
So any questions about alignment at all? No? Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you think it'll make a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, sweet. So now we'll just talk about posture and alignment and ball position, kind of all in the same one. So when you guys set up, Jack, you want to come up and set up to that middle ball? When you set up to hit an iron shot, where would you play it in your stance?
Wedges down the middle.
Wedges in the middle?
Maybe half ball to the ball every time I go up.
As you increase the degree or whatever, as the degree becomes less? Actually, we can all, if you guys want to all kind of stand shoulder to shoulder, it looks like we got enough here to kind of figure this out. Get a few more. These are nice range balls. So, ideally, like Jack said, you want to move the ball more forward in your stance as you take longer clubs. So do you have a staple? Anybody have a staple for where they play their driver then?
My driver's almost off my heel.
Off the heel of your front foot, right?
Yeah.
Yep, and that's correct. You agree, Steve? Okay. You too, Chris?
Yep.
You like it up front like that? And then so that is kind of the standard rule for kind of the benchmark for the driver would be off the front of your left foot. And like Jack said, as you have more lofted clubs, you would move it backwards. And what happens too when you move the ball, and just to understand how you're talking about trajectory, Jack, is that where you move the ball obviously is going to affect how the ball starts off. So as that club travels through the zone, you're going to add loft to it the more that we go forward. That's why we put the driver so far forward in our stance, because it has the least amount of loft in our bag, aside from a putter. So that's just an important concept to understand, that if you have a driver, it needs to be up here because it has way less loft, whereas if you have a wedge, it could be, a ball back because it has so much loft, and you're able to keep it straighter. The further back you play it in your stance, it's going to be very difficult to play a wedge forward in your stance and have that solid contact every time, because you're adding so much more loft as you go through the hitting zone every time. Any questions on that? No? That's pretty standard, yeah?
Yep.
So we can talk about body position and posture also. And do you guys play other sports? Did you play other sports? Have you played other sports? Yeah. What have you played, Joe?
Football.
Football? Chris?
Basketball, soccer, football, baseball.
A little bit of everything, Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Except for soccer. Okay. What about you, Steve?
Football, basketball, and track.
Football, basketball, and track. Okay, so in all of those sports, it's essential to have good posture and to be in the right position, especially with football. You know what I'm saying? It's the same with golf, only people don't think about it like in the same context as golf. So it's real important to understand that you need to have a wide base, and it needs to be about as wide as your shoulders. You need to be bent at your knees and bent at your waist with a straight back. And this is what I see. If anything, people struggle with, it's having rounded shoulders, and I do as well. It's being able to be here where you have a straight line from your foot to your knee, from your knee to your hip, and from your hip to your shoulders. And that's like I said, that's one thing that I struggle with. But being set up in an athletic position is going to help you hit the ball better. It's going to help you hit the ball further, because everything is kind of connected, as opposed to being rounded or standing tall and skinny. And it makes sense when you think about it, but a lot of you guys know from working at golf courses that a lot of people don't stand athletically over the ball. I mean, you could look at the range and see it right now. It doesn't happen, but it's something that you have to be very conscious of. So that's pretty much it. So we went over the grip, alignment, the ball position, posture, and a little bit about our stance as far as being shoulder width apart. Is there any questions about any of that? I felt like you guys did a good job with the grip. You guys did a good job seeing the difference in the alignment, and I hope that makes a difference. Definitely did a good job and are knowledgeable about where the ball positioning is and how that'll affect your shots. So now we can move on to the putting drill that we have. Try bringing your hands closer to, yeah, like that. Okay. So there's a little bit of bend in your elbows, okay? And I know it's gonna feel uncomfortable, and like I say, all your missed hits are mine today, so that's all right.